Alright, time to get back to weapon select, because we've actually got some new weapons now. It's been a little while, but Sizzle season's out, we've got some new weapons out of the game. Let's start talking about them. First one I'm going to go over is the Sorella Tentabrella. The Tentabrella is something that I talked about with Shadowwind at some length on a professional development recently. And if you're looking for better Tentabrella tips than you're going to get from me, highly recommend going and checking that out, because Shadowwind is the best Tentabrella player in the West. So as for the main weapon and the techniques that you want to be using with that, I would recommend going there. But this is a new kit. And this kit is actually pretty similar to the Camo Tentabrella that was the most popular kit for it in Splatoon 2. We've got the Ink Mines returning, and then the Trizuka is a little bit different, but it can function in a similar way to throwing a hammer. Basically, the goal there is you launch shield, and now from here, they can't see you popping the special, or if they do see you popping the special, they can't hit you while you're doing it. They can't abuse the vulnerability between when you pop it and when you actually fire it. And so, just like with the hammer, where the animation of pulling it out takes a while, the Trizuka animation takes a little while before you can actually fire the shot, and the tent can kind of mask that, or at least protect you while you're trying to use it. And so that can take the Tentabrella from just playing defensively around the shield trying to survive to going on the offensive instead. Ink Mines are a solid option for it. It's not necessarily going to be used in, head-on combat with someone, but that's okay because you have a shield to protect yourself if somebody's out of range or something like that. And your main weapon doesn't have, an insignificant amount of range itself. This isn't exactly a lot of damage until you start hitting more pellets, but it is something that can be a deterrent to someone who's a reasonable distance away. So you don't need too much of an ability to poke, and the Ink Mine is, not going to be a source of that poke, but that's generally okay. If, for example, you are to launch the shield, it goes out, and then you realize shield's about to get shredded, you don't have an advantage to win, you've got to back up. Backing up and putting the mine in between you and the opponent is a way that you can slow them down. You can also just get your mines set up before you decide to deploy the shield. It's already a pretty slow-moving weapon anyway. Getting a mine out in a place or two before you go in, not the end of the world. It's not going to take you too far away from your game plan, considering that your game plan is, to get really hard setup and to move in only once the rest of your team is around to do something with it. This weapon is generally running a lot of quick respawn. You'll see everyone doing that on sendu.inc/builds, which is where I recommend going to find builds. That's where a lot of top-level players are posting them. Reason being, number one, there have been problems with the shield in the past, and sometimes you're just going to die. Number two, sometimes you're going to get flanked, and it's very difficult for this weapon to get out of that situation when it's already launched the shield and it's getting flanked. It doesn't have a very fast fire rate. Number three, though, is that the map design in this game makes it so that the role that it was playing in Splatoon 2, where it would come up on side angles, where it would flank, and try and draw attention to those flanks, to those awkward side positions that don't matter, and so the enemy shooting at a tent shield there is wasting their time. That strategy doesn't really work with the map design in Splatoon 3, where the maps are kind of hallways, and so you're going to be running a lot of more committal plays where you just launch a shield down a choke point, and, sometimes that's not going to go the way you want it to. Sometimes that shield is going to phase out before you've done everything that you need to. Sometimes you're going to have to retreat, and this weapon is not very good at retreating quickly. So there are a lot of ways that you can just randomly go down, and having the quick respawn to get back into play soon is definitely helpful for it. I'm going to choose Rainmaker here over Tower Control. Tower Control is one of the weakest modes for the Tentabrella because it's very bad at clearing the tower. It doesn't do one-shot damage on someone who's up on the tower very reliably at all, if at all. And the tent shield isn't really protecting you super well from something that's directly above you. The tent shield also cannot be used on the tower to clear it. So it's just not really well suited to playing around that objective. And people will generally view that as its weakest mode. Okay, lots of range on these comps. Gotta be careful not to be out in the open without a shield against some of this. I'm gonna try and just get some attention on the right side over here. See if we can start moving in. And get a mine down. Might give us some information. Being pushed by that player right there. Might be able to help our teammate here. Nice. Even if you're out of range, one thing that you can often do that's pretty valuable for your teammates is paint your opponent's feet. The spray pattern on this weapon is very conducive to doing that, even from a range where it's not going to be lethal. I probably should have, if I'd been thinking I'd put my shield out in front of that to save that player. I was trying to get away from it myself, but I probably had enough time to get the shield up. We're going to back up here. We're two players down. We might be able to prevent dunk. We did stop that, but we got someone behind us. We do have one down. Hopefully we're going to be able to push up here. We're really letting them kind of get back in here. I'm going to drop this down. It's a lot more difficult for them to get it across onto our platform there. And so even though I go down for that, that should slow them down enough that it's worth it. Nice. Okay. Roller, but we get him. Oh, they actually got me. Crossed up there, but they didn't know that I was there, I don't think. And we get the one shot there, which is nice. So hopefully that gives us the numbers advantage that we need to keep pushing up. Fire early there so I can get my shield up in time just in case someone's watching it. And get rushed by paintbrush there. Didn't quite have my shield up in time. Should have been watching. There is an animation that plays, and it played there once it actually happened, and it was just too late. But I wasn't paying enough attention, just kind of trying to time it in my head without looking for confirmation. Back up over here because we're going to get flanked on the right. There we go. Shotgun pellets make it so that I'm going to do at least some damage probably if I shoot at something in the air. I don't know why they're trying to challenge that. I might be able to waste some time in their base here. We're going to have both of the backliners looking at me if I do this. Sploosh was able to get on top of me there, but definitely killed a lot of time. I wish we had painted a little bit more on our way up instead of trying to rush up there to get with me. I was doing just fine by myself. But good there. Okay, good. Teammate was watching the other side, and now we can just take this down here. Okay, they're down there, but again, I don't really mind going down there because it means that the Rainmaker is in a much more difficult place for them to retrieve it from. I meant to land up there, and then I missed the jump a couple times, but we're good. A little bit awkward there, and I actually bumped my controller into the desk while I was trying to aim, so that was great. I really disagree with this idea. This is not... This is a long amount of time that we have to keep them out. and if they start getting some kind of advantage, or if they like get an inkjet direct or something like that, then that can definitely go south in a hurry. But we did end up holding on. What you should really do there is just leave the Rainmaker down in mid, make them get it out of that corner themselves, and try to keep the shield from even popping in the first place, so they can never pick it up and the overtime doesn't trigger for that way. Because having a player holding the Rainmaker is a very weak position. You're basically in like a 3.5 versus 4 situation, and you don't want to stay in that for super long. But we got it done. There's an ink mine for the fans. Next up, we're going to do custom dually squelchers. The majority of what I'm seeing here is a comeback quick respawn build, kind of similar to this. Obviously, there are going to be some differences, but it's a good general idea anyway. I'm not going to exactly make gear that is devoted to a weapon that I'm not going to be playing. If you don't know about the dually squelchers, their jump tech, this action that I'm doing right here, and why that's useful, then I will be linking a video. I explain it in Splatoon 2, but the concept still applies to Splatoon 3. So definitely go and look at that if you're interested in this main weapon. It really unlocks a lot of potential in the weapon's combat that you really need to be taking advantage of at a competitive level if you want to be using this thing. Talking about the kit, it has beacons and super chump, which is definitely not great for fighting. It's not something that you're going to be able to hold a lot of ground with. It's very supportive. So you're going to want to be making sure that those beacons are up and keeping yourself out of danger, painting up for the super chumps, and then trying to go in with the super chumps with the team. Super chumps are generally pretty underpowered right now. They're relatively non-threatening. So you really need to apply a lot of pressure as a team while the chumps are out for them to get value, which means that you're going to want to be targeting places where there's about to be a fight with them, and then making sure that when that fight happens, you have beacons up so that when people go down in that fight, they're going to be able to come back and get into the fight again quicker. So we'll go for tower control with this one. Flounder Heights and Mako Mart both have a lot of good hiding places for beacons. While they are a little bit tight and cramped, and that might not be the best for this weapon, which would probably prefer to have a lot more open ground where it can kite people backwards, they are at least fairly big. And so they'll have a lot of value that we can get out of those beacons, and I'm going to try and play relatively supportively so I can make sure that those are maintained and try to use my long range to crossfire for my teammates. Part of the utility of that beacon is that it will tell us, if we just check the map, who's up on top right. Okay. We're gonna not spend too long trying to openly contest that until we can get into this kind of a position where they're not looking at us. Because Splatling is going to have a much faster kill time than us. And so we only want to challenge it once, you know, the shots are on and we know that they're not going to be hitting shots on us anytime soon. Okay. So looks like they're potentially going to set some stuff up here. I'm going to fire these and go in and try and catch this player out. There we go. I'm going to make sure to get... Oop. We've got the beacons up, so we can just jump back in. I'm making some fairly aggressive movements here, and part of that is the quick respawn, because I just know that I'm going to be back in pretty soon, so I'm not going to worry so much about preserving myself. But There I'm getting the bucket's attention, making them feel like they can't necessarily contest the tower at that exact moment. I'll also put a beacon on tower just to see if that gets us a free jump in onto it. That is often a place that people want to jump to in tower control. We're going to pop this right here. And then we're going to see if we can get something done with that. Not quite. A lot of people on our team went down in the middle of that, and I probably shouldn't have chosen that time to engage. If there were more pressure coming from the front, that might have been a better idea, but I realized as I was up there, like, I'm in something like a 1v4. This is one very annoying aspect of any beacon's weapon, that wave breakers just get rid of them. I was considering getting up on tower to contest as soon as that happened, but with the Kraken being there and player being in mid, kind of hesitated a little bit. Okay, so they're jumping into that right-hand side. Just back up from here. Just trying to keep them off of this flank. That'll get one. Another one weak there, and we should be able to get them because they're stuck in the... Oh, I'm out of ink. Oh, man. That was a big mistake on my part, not recognizing that. I've got the volume turned down a little bit low, and so I couldn't hear it, but I should still be able to see it. It's something that I need to train myself to do a little bit better. I don't want to really have to rely on audio cues for that. I had better aim there. I also, that was an execution of jump tech to a degree, but also just the practice of kind of crossing them up, of getting onto the side that they're not aiming at. There's a lot going on the left-hand side, and we're just going to try and hold on the right. We have the lead. We don't really have to go in here. I'm marked, which is why I'm not moving up too quickly. I'm going to farm for chumps here, and then I'm going to try and get those off when they start pushing me out. Looks like the fight has started happening elsewhere. I was able to use the dual reticle fire to kind of sneak some shots in around the tower. Like one reticle was missing, but the other one wasn't. And so if they move one side, they're getting hit by one shot. If they move the other side, they're getting hit by the other. That sort of thing, where I'm walking back and forth there. It's slow, but it's at least a way to very quickly shift your damage from one side of the tower to the other, which can be helpful. I should have been rolling backwards a little faster there. I am glad that the team got the message and broke the checkpoint there. Breaking the checkpoint is going to be difficult for the enemy team. And so that puts a harder target up for them, especially if I'm going to attack them at this checkpoint here. You can see, like, I'm in a very safe position here using my range to be able to hit those shots, and with my mobility, I'm able to get into positions to use that range a little bit more effectively. So that's kind of where the QR playstyle comes in. You're taking some more risks with your positioning than you would if you were playing a more supportive, careful build. But you're hopefully able to still make it work. That'll move us along to the light tetra dualies. This is a weapon that I'm probably not going to be the best at showcasing, not because I'm unfamiliar with the main weapon, but actually because I'm unfamiliar with the Zipcaster. It's probably one of my weakest specials, personally. This is, you know, still one of the best main weapons in the game. Tetra dualies are just kind of insane with their mobility and their ability to deal a significant amount of DPS while moving, not like in between moving, but actually while moving. You fire shots in the middle of a dodge roll, and since you have 4 of them, that's plenty of time to get a splat and, you know, try to trade favorably. There's a lot of synergy between Zipcaster and the dodge rolls. Because if you try to go up into the air and jump like that, you can always return quickly by dodge rolling. If you're in the air and you dodge roll, you go down much more quickly than you would normally fall. And so taking advantage of that for movement makes being in the air a lot less vulnerable. And that's a super nice thing about them. You also can like combo so that you have to hit fewer shots. And being able to not only, you know, get behind someone, but then be able to go into Dooley's dodge rolls and start doing Tetra's kind of damage on whatever position on the map can make these really threatening. But it also means that this weapon isn't going to play quite as aggressively. It's a weapon that actually really wants to be playing around its special instead of just going in and feeding the way that its counterpart on the Dark Tetra Doolies would. So that changes its kind of flow of play a little bit. Still not, you know, the end of the world to go in for a good trade or something, but if you do want to be able to use that Zipcaster with a team-coordinated push, it's going to take a little bit of time to farm that up, and so that's something that you kind of want to be making careful decisions about as you go. Okay, so there is a Charger and a Bloblobber, and we're going to be trying to make them have as difficult a time as possible through this game. There's someone going to be coming up on this side right here. And they saw me there. It's a blaster. If I get on top of them, I can make it very difficult for them to hit me because I am dualies. Back in the Splatoon 2 rock, paper, scissors meta, they called it, it was widely considered that dualies countered blasters, blasters countered brellas, and brellas countered dualies. And the idea here is that you're trying to roll as well around the blaster as you can, because that makes its directs very difficult to happen. And when you're at close range against the blaster, they have to hit a direct or else they're not doing damage at all, unless you're using something like a Clash, which is going to hit very close to you. So a lot of the time, you can just kind of approach a blaster and be like, all right, hit a direct, you won't. And they won't. Scared the Charger away a little bit there. If I'd had a little bit more ink, then that probably could have resulted in a bit more damage, but stayed in roll for a little bit too long there and let myself get picked. So that wasn't ideal, but we'll jump right back in and we'll be there soon. There's a Bloblobber and a Blast. Okay, they're white, so we're going to get ourselves into the most annoying position that we can. Hey, I'm here. Better look at me. Got a little bit into an awkward position there with the Bloblobber. Oh, actually it was the E-Leader that got me. Okay, it wasn't even... I thought for a second that I accidentally crossed the Bloblobber up and got hit by a blob, but no, it was actually that the Charger took me out. Makes sense. Charger can't hit me because I'm underneath this ledge, and it's a line-of-sight weapon. You can see it's having a really hard time there. I ended up getting my feet stuck. I wanted to get down into the ramp and then maybe drop into their street, but there's still plenty of time to make up for it. Get the blob there. And the blaster is going to be right on top of me. Good shot from them. They were right up close to me, so it was a little bit easier to hit that direct than if I was maybe the slightest bit further away. While they do have to hit the direct is easier the closer they are, so that is something you have to consider. Dropped right there. Yeah. Figured there was something in the works there. And we're out of ink, so we can't continue that any further. One more roll and I definitely would have been able to get the player, but ran out of ink, lost my movement. Yeah, a little bit too aggressive. There's nobody up there with me. There's no extra pressure being added. Not a good time to go down either. This is a very difficult position to be in. We get the one. And we drop down here. Alright, got it just in time. Alright, nice. And that'll teleport me back to safety, in case I wasn't safe already. Reminder that with Zipcaster, if you just spray more ink, that lets you recall from it faster if you're in a difficult spot. Because the thing about... Did I get them... I definitely did some damage at least with the sprinkler. That's funny. The thing with the... Zipcaster is that if you use up ink, that's your timer for how long the special is going to last. And so you actually can manipulate it by causing it to end early if you decide to fire a bunch of shots, use a bunch of ink. Close one for sure. If I get spotted out by the blaster on the back of that wall, I don't defend the tower. But we made it happen. And we'll probably just go up to heavy deco. As with any long-range splatling, you're going to be running a lot of run speed. Probably something like 2 mains-ish. Other stuff can be kind of general utility. Stealth jump isn't really as important. I'll probably just go with this, since I happen to have that available right there, and that's a good couple of things. But so heavy splatling is a very well explored weapon in this game already. You know, if you are wanting to play the heavy deco, you've probably already played a significant amount of the heavy splatling. It is a weapon that's very strong in the metagame right now. It's seeing a lot of competitive use. You're also probably seeing a lot of use of the ballpoint. So this is just another tool in your kit there. This is a pretty solid kit for it. It's not, you know, the best weapon in the game or anything like that, but it is very functional. The point sensor is, you know, significantly better in this game than it has been in previous installments, just because maps are hallways and there's less space to check, so you can cover more of the proportional area of a map just by putting a point sensor on it. And this is a pretty good weapon to have point sensors. The heavy remix from Splatoon 2 did pretty well with this. It's good for just kind of getting your team information, making it so that opponents can't shark them or something. If you see something your teammates don't see, it's a way to help them track them. It's also a way to be able to keep vision on someone so that if they go behind a wall or something, you know if they're trying to sneak up on you or if they're actually running away. You might even be able to hit some fall-off shots if you're really cracked with that. The Kraken is a really interesting addition to it. So there's some wisdom that you can take from the E-Leader players and backline weapons who also ran... I think there was a heavy that had the Kraken in Splatoon 1 as well. Some wisdom that you can take from them that will help with this weapon. The E-Leaders tended to use the Kraken sort of as a get-out-of-jail-free card. If someone got on top of them, just pop Kraken and now they're all of a sudden safe. There's a little bit less of that because the activation time is different in this game, but it's a way where if you realize you're being closed in on, you can maybe turn the tables or at least buy yourself enough time to get away or waste some time for teammates to arrive. But another option that specifically the Splatling will like a lot better than an E-Leader will is that there are definitely positions where long-range Splatlings benefit from actually flanking the enemy team. For example, on Starfish main stage on the far right side grates, Devi loved to take her Hydra all the way around that right side corner and catch people off guard while they were trying to contest mid. Because the Hydra is right side peeking around a wall. It's very difficult to get at them from. They can control the only avenue that you can approach them from, and they're very high DPS, so it's difficult to contest. If I am a Splatling and I know the only way someone can attack me is by coming through this corridor right in front of me, I am one of the most powerful weapons in the game from right here. This is really difficult to push me across. Now, the ability to get into those positions is what's hard for this weapon, because it has some time that it has to spend spinning up before it can peek this corner. But the Kraken would enable you, let's say there was an opponent in your way and you wanted to take that position. You could just Kraken your way through, you know, cause some mischief, cause some mayhem, then drop back here while you're starting to transform back, because you're going to have to be safe during that time anyway, and then come back out with charge. So the Kraken kind of can enable you to actually take some positions that you normally wouldn't find a safe way to be able to take, but where your weapon is more powerful. So that's a thought to be looking for when you're playing with the Kraken. Also with Kraken, be on the lookout for any hyper-aggressive weapons on your team that might benefit from you being able to go in around a piece of cover and flush someone out for them to deal with. That is also a really good use of that weapon. I think we'll try out the Rainmaker rotation here. Manta is a very strong Splatling map, and I think we're going to get some good use out of the Kraken on the other map there. Kraken can be really good for, you know, letting you have a part in a play that's moving up too fast for the Splatling to follow, and also, like we said, installing yourself in places. Being able to kind of push that button and make the weapon move up more quickly and be able to take more aggressive positions can be valuable. Okay, no ranged options on their team comp. That doesn't mean we don't have to be scared of something like a big Squid getting underneath us on a ledge or something like that. And obviously we're going to be a target to the rest of their team for a lot of this time. But we can definitely bully a little bit when we know where everybody is. Now, they're going to be targeting us with those shots, and I did a poor job of making sure I had an escape route. I was trying to go too aggressive and was not attending to that. We're also down players right now and need to make sure that we're not going to continue a stagger. But it's really nice, you can see on, you know, maps where there's significant cover that they're going to be pushing around. It's nice to have the vision without having to really go in there and expose ourselves to danger. Okay. I'm actually going to go in here. And nobody went in with me at all. I was hoping that I would get a little bit of support from behind there to move in on those players. That's what this way was meant to establish. I might have gone in a little bit further than they were able to follow. There are a lot of ways that could have gone wrong. And I'm certainly no expert Kraken user. That was my intent, at the very least. A little bit sloppy on the aim there, but we should still be able to... Ooh, didn't quite get the shots on in time. I'm playing very aggressively there. I should probably be sitting a little bit further back. Why are we running backwards? That's not where we want that to go. They're already through the checkpoint. Like, I get it if we're trying to hold it in a place where they can't score the checkpoint as easily, but that was a really dangerous attempt to, like, reset it. We should have just dropped it off in the mid. Definitely do not agree with that plan. And so here, for example, is one of those places where you can really take advantage of the weapon's ability to flank. You can see we get 2 players for that. And these players even can't really push us, despite the fact that I was outnumbered in that situation. I'm just going to try and get some picks here. It was probably my responsibility to deal with. I was too busy going after another player who was a little bit less relevant to the play at that point. They're going to fire those shots at me repeatedly, but that's going to give my teammates time to clean it up. It's fine. I'm going to pop Kraken and try to go in with this in the meantime. There we go. Oh, let's try to pick it up. When you don't have special, it's generally a good idea to be picking it up for yourself. Oh, and they've got to disconnect. Okay, let's send it back there. Now there is a flank coming up behind us. This jump is potentially dead? We'll see. I'll take the trade. Being in a 4v3, a trade is 100% worth. Gives us a numbers advantage. And a 3v2 numbers advantage is more powerful than a 4v3 numbers advantage. There's less of a likelihood that the players are going to be in close enough proximity to cover each other. Getting some fall off there. Kind of scare them into position there, because they have to run away from the Kraken, and my teammates are going to be able to cover from there. I wish I could get up here. Okay. I'm going to throw that there, because that's the place they're most likely to flank from. Most effective place to flank from. Someone coming up behind us, which I can definitely deal with once they get here. Especially since now they're in a position that doesn't give them control over the Rainmaker, so we can keep them off. Okay, well, disconnect was unfortunate, and some of those positions are a little bit goofy for me to be taking as a such a long-range weapon, but I hope it shows some of the aggressive potential that this weapon has. The heavy charges pretty quickly for getting enough shots to splat. Very, very fast DPS, you know, fairly accurate. It's not nearly as accurate as the long-range shots of a ballpoint, but definitely serves its role as long as it has charge and knows what it's looking at. So you put yourself in positions where you know where people are going to be, and there's often not a lot of counterplay if they just blunder into your range. So it's probably more deaths than you're probably aiming for on a typical game of heavy splatling, especially one where you're not really challenged by the range of any of their weapons, but I think it ended up working out just fine. We'll call it there for now. I think we're going to do it in 3 parts here. 4 weapons in each part, except for one of them, which will have 3. I don't know. We'll decide which one that gets to be. Thanks for watching, and look for the future installments of that to be coming out shortly.